Welcome to Gold Coast Insider, where we bring you business insights, stories, opportunities and forecasts from movers and shakers across the Gold Coast. I'm your host, Estella Rodiguero. I'm CEO of Regional Development Australia Gold Coast. My guest today is Marion Charlton. Marion has an impressive track record in business and aviation domestically and abroad. Since joining Queensland Airports Limited, Marion has held a variety of senior roles, including her current position of Chief Operating Officer, where she manages the day-to-day operations of QAL. Recently, Marion oversaw the transformational Gold Coast Airport terminal expansion, which doubled the Gold Coast Airport's footprint to 30,000 square metres. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, Marion. Marion worked at Atlanta and Sydney airports during the 1996 and the 2000 Olympics and was in Glasgow during the 2014 Commonwealth Games. Marion has strong ties to the community and is a past trustee with the Currumbin Wildlife Hospital Foundation and sits on the board of Bond University. It's great to talk to you today, Marion.
Good morning. How are you, Estella?
I'm really, really well. Now, anyone that's listening will already have picked up on your little bit of the accent there. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, good morning. So, actually, people sometimes struggle to pick my accent because I've been here for a little while. So it's a bit of a, but yeah, people can always tell me from somewhere. But I'm actually was born and raised in Dublin. So I'm an Irish girl. I studied business after school, and my first job I was the youngest person at the time at Dublin Airport. So I've been a bit of an aviation nerd my entire career. And back then I worked with the buyers in the duty free at Dublin Airport, a company called Aerobridges. And Aerobridges are actually very commercial. Even now they run the duty frees at Abu Dhabi and Auckland Airport. Very, very commercial organization, and they've spread their wings way beyond Ireland. So it's a great grounding for me. But then love and adventure brought me to Sydney, and I was lucky enough to get a role at Sydney Airport, where I kind of had three careers, I suppose. At the beginning, I jumped into what I knew, which was commercial. And airports make so much of the money, as you'd be aware, from retail, food and beverage and the like. So that was a big role at Sydney. But then I went to what they call the dark side. I got offered a role head of operations at Sydney Airport, which was absolutely chaotic and probably some of the best times of my life. And it was at that point where we heard the winner is Sydney, where Sydney Airport, or Sydney as a city, was awarded the Olympic Games. And as head of ops, then I got the opportunity to work in Atlanta for the 96 Games and to bring those learnings and to be able to start the operational planning for Sydney Airport for the Olympics. So a very awesome time there. Before I left, I was head of brand and marketing. And then made the fantastic decision to come and live on the Gold Coast, where I'm now Chief Operating Officer for Qual. So very much in aviation, but business background as well.
So what brought you to the Gold Coast? Was it the position or what? How did
it wasn't actually. It was when I was at Sydney. When I was at the end of Sydney Airport, so I came to Gold Coast in 2001. We had just finished the Olympic Games in Sydney, and I have a child that was born in 2001. My entire family are in Dublin, and my husband's family, who we used to lean on a lot with such big jobs in Sydney, they made a decision, how rude, without consulting us, to move to the Gold Coast. So we thought, well, I think parents move away to get away from their children, but we follow them. So we moved to the Gold Coast, so we made that decision first, and then I was very happily secured a role at Gold Coast Airport, which was a lot smaller back then. Ansett hadn't long fallen over. Then Virgin came in, just 4 flights a day. The airport was actually in 2 halves. There was a Qantas half and a Virgin half at one point. I think. some of the listeners will remember those days.
Hmm.
But then with the advent of low-cost carriers, Virgin took off really well. Then we negotiated with Qantas to take over the entire terminal, and almost the rest is history to the fabulous development that you see, that beautiful three-level international terminal building that we built during the COVID period. So from those shoots to what we see today, it's quite extraordinary. And that's down to the Gold Coast. We would love to say people fly into the Gold Coast airport because I love the airport, but it's because of the destination. And we're just really happy to support that destination with the facilities that we have.
So the Gold Coast Airport is part of Queensland Airports Limited, and that they own and operate and Gold Coast, Townsville, Mount Isa and Longreach airports. And it's an Australian-owned company too, isn't it, Marion?
It's an Australian-owned company largely, and 4 airports across Queensland, and 4 quite different airports, which is quite good in terms of a balance and there. So you have the Gold Coast, which is very heavily dependent on tourism, and interstate traffic and international traffic, and then Townsville, Mount Isa, Longreach, which, for example, Townsville is a lot more with the Defence Force, Mount Isa with mining. So it's a really good balance in the portfolio, and we were really grateful for that balance during COVID, when, for example, the Gold Coast Airport was actually closed completely for over 45 days and then limped along for as part of 2 years while borders opened and closed, where Townsville and Mount Isa, they were reduced, but their traffic is intrastate, so it's within Queensland. So they dropped to about 50% of traffic where we were pretty much closed. So although we have Gold Coast is by far the biggest, 6 million passengers. For a while there, all our other ports had more passengers than Gold Coast. And we used to send them trophies to call them the big bananas of our industry, because they were actually keeping our organisation going during that.
And I wanted to actually touch on that a bit, because COVID that was a very, very challenging time for a lot of industry and people alike, but equally with the Gold Coast Airport. Can we talk about some of those impacts and what were the challenges? But there were a couple of opportunities that came out of that as well for the airport. Do you want to talk us through that, Marion?
Yeah, we try not to dwell too much on the challenging times of COVID, but it's made us the people that we are. I suppose the thing for us was we were building, although we had no passengers and pretty much no income, our board made the brave decision to continue with the development of that international terminal facility, the facility that we see now. And it is quite beautiful. And every time we go through there, we reflect in some ways, terrible pregnancy, but the baby is beautiful. But massively challenging. Even just some of those contractors, being allowed to work on site. And about a third of our team live in New South Wales. So, trying to get people across the border to come to work, to be able to just finish that development. I said, against a time of limited income. But, what it was is we believed in the destination. We knew that we were going to get through this. And that when we did, that opportunity, that propensity for people's deep need to travel and to connect and to visit their family, and the beautiful destination that we live in here, we had such faith in all of that kept us going. And that's exactly what's happened. We opened that terminal fully at the end of 2022. And from a domestic passenger numbers, we're already back to those pre-COVID numbers, and we were super excited to be a new base, for example, for Bonza, which was announced over the last number of weeks, and that those new services will start in November. So super glad that we made the decisions that we made, that terminal is there, and it's also going to be there with aerobridges and a very grown up facility as we head into the Paralympic and Olympic Games.
And that was the biggest infrastructure project too, wasn't it?
That's the biggest infrastructure project the Gold Coast has ever seen. It more than doubled the size of our building. It added 30,000 square meters to the facility. The Gold Coast was always asking about aerobridges. So we have 4 aerobridges, either 4 domestic, 2 international. And it's a very clever building. It swings because our international services are quite peaky. They happen in the morning or in the afternoon, and there's vast periods during the day where there aren't. So what it means is that we use the aerobridges and parts of that facility for international. And then when there's no international services, we swing, and it's not without its complications, but we swing into what we call domestic mode. So it means that the majority of the facility can be used all of the
All
time.
the time.
So just really, really innovative and really smart. And I think a lot of airports look at Gold Coast and wish they had that kind of flexibility. We've got flights that come in domestically and leave internationally, for example.
Oh,
So
yeah.
really good for our airline partners. That
Yeah.
never turn around an aircraft like that. It's quite unique to Gold Coast.
Wow. And again, as a result of COVID, I guess, airlines re-looked at their routes, didn't they? And a number reevaluated their airport locations. Has this been reflected on at the Gold Coast Airport?
Yeah, it's been interesting. Our airline partners, they're also managing their own challenges post aircraft, which is challenges around crew and challenges around actually having the appropriate numbers of aircraft. Thankfully, those challenges are starting to rectify themselves. But coming out of COVID, we did see some decisions made in that regard. So, as I mentioned earlier, we were the winners in that, and so we got obviously a new service Bali and the return of Kuala Lumpur. But for example, Scoot was a service that we loved on the Gold Coast, and it was doing really well. It was full, and people really supported that service. But from an airline perspective, they had to make a decision around limited aircraft, and they made a decision that that would be a better profitable route in Asia. So we that's the reason why we lost Scoot. So, but it swings and roundabouts. Airports. Understand the nature of that, and then very quick on the tail of that, we had that amazing Bonza announcement, and they're to places where we've never basically flown before. Places like Mount Isa and towns. We're very excited actually to be able to link our airports for the first time. But flying to Launceston, to Albury. So this all these wonderful, almost regional cities where they, for the first time, will be able to fly quite cost effectively to Gold Coast for a holiday. And I think that's going to be amazing for the
And vice
city as
versa.
these people pour in. And vice versa.
Like,
I know. If you,
the
I've
big
had
gift
the
out the
pleasure.
holidays to regional Queensland is
It's
massive.
amazing. I mean, I always say the smaller the town, the bigger the heart. And as I'm lucky enough to be able to spend time in Townsville, Mount Isa, and they're so different and long range. And my biggest pleasure I have when I go to Mount Isa is to go out of town and just look up at the outback stars, same in long range. So, it's just so different. And to be able to affordably connect to all those towns is really a gift.
It is. Now, there's been a couple of new initiatives that have started up at the Gold Coast Airport. And one of them, which you recently launched, is about a program for the airport for passengers with hidden disabilities. Do you want to talk us through that?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're very proud of that program. And if I take a step back even, and this is the year of accessible tourism, and I think that's a really great thing for us, everyone to focus again as the 2032 Paralympics and Olympic Games coming up. So it's something that we're very mindful of, and we're working with a range of different experts to help us lift our game. And I think as an industry, there's lots we can all do in that space. So the Hidden Disability Program is a program that we developed with Aspect Australia. So it's essentially for people who, we always feel at airports that it's such an exciting place and people are going on holidays and it's awesome, but it's not like that for everyone. For some people, airports can be quite a challenge, or they're very noisy, or they can be a little bit confusing. And particularly coming out of COVID, where people hadn't traveled for a while, we're very aware of that. So we developed our Hidden Disability Program, which is really about addressing that on a number of levels. But ultimately, the symbol for the Hidden Disability Program is a big sunflower, and all our team have been trained and educated. When they see someone coming through, and you can get the the details on how to get the sunflower on our website, that we understand that they may need just a little bit of help, a little bit of extra love, whether that's at security, whether that's at check-in. The team know what to look out for, and we get such fantastic feedback in terms of how this has changed people's lives, and particularly their ability just to be able to travel without that stress. And then we've supercharged that program with what we call our Ambassador Pause program. And so basically, we have an ambassador program where we have 60 ambassadors, beautiful, gorgeous people who just give up their time to help people through the airport. And then we have our gorgeous pooches, dogs that are just there every day for people to be able to have a pat with. Well, they're going to be there every day. We have 3 times a week at the moment, going to 5 and 7 by the end of this year. So again, typically at airports, you don't pat the dogs. Typically, they're working dogs, but they have signs saying "pat me," and they can actually take someone who is stressed at the airport through the whole process now. So take a customer through security right to the gate. You can have the dog with you. And again, just the feedback we get from this is extraordinary.
That'd be amazing, because most of us are terrified of those dogs and we're not allowed to pat them because they're all like, don't come near my bag. God, if I left a lolly in there,
That's so true. And we had to correct that with a big sign saying, pat me. It's good. But I think the difference is with our the dogs that we've chosen, they come in all shapes and sizes. So we have a black lab, for example, Quincy, and he looks like your typical working dog. He's beautiful. They're all beautiful mated. But we have the little fluffy Lucy as well, because and so she obviously looks like she's not your typical working airport dog. But what we're also aware of, that people respond differently to different dogs in a different way. So having that range of different size and shapes, and they're all beautiful, but people have different needs where it comes to animals. So we have I love all of them. I go over for a pat. I just love it.
Oh, I wouldn't stay away from them. I'd be wanting to take them on the plane with me. But now let's talk about some of the opportunities moving forward for the Gold Coast.
I think obviously that we have it all going on. It is such a beautiful place to live as I look out the window today, and the most beautiful climate. We have so many strings to our bow across education, across arts and culture, across tourism, events, and I think we do it all really, really well. I think the great opportunity for the Gold Coast now is that the formation of Experience Gold Coast, where from September this year, it's just getting going. The board are just forming an amazing board, where each of those organizations are all part of the one entity. And I think what you get there is the ability to leverage off each other and to cross promote each other. It's I think the opportunity there to come up with a single proposition for the Gold Coast that we can go and sell nationally and internationally. I'm super excited by what comes out of that Experience Gold Coast. And I think that's, again, fabulous timing as we have an opportunity to leverage the exposure that the city is likely to get in the lead up to the Paralympic and Olympic Games.
And even before we get to that, what we're seeing with the events that we're putting on here on the Gold Coast is just stunning, isn't it? We're talking about the air show. That was just, that was one of the biggest.
The air show, and I obviously we're all air nerds here at the airport. The air show, as I said, the first time they started talking to us about the air show was actually back in 2020 when the airport was shut. And it was really, we have an operational team here, and there was no aircraft. And just having those conversations about something exciting that was going to be happening in the future was actually such a shot in the arm for our ops team. Just even thinking about the fact when the airport was empty that we might A, be back, and B, have an amazing air show. It was almost psychologically, such a lift for our team. So then to actually see it come to fruition, where we had those aircraft at the airport and we were all hanging out there because they were just so cool and we never had those. And then to see how the city responded to it, those full beaches, it was, oh my goodness, it was extraordinary. And what I loved about it, maybe because I'm Irish, maybe Australians too are a bit egalitarian. I loved the fact that there was areas on the beach where you could pay and go and all of that. But the
Yeah.
full length of the beach was chockers of people who were just going down with their blankets.
Yeah.
They didn't have to pay at all, and they still got a fabulous day out. So I think it just ticked so many boxes. And as I said, the journey of that is actually something that's quite personal to our team from where it started to where it ended.
And it did take a full-on team that put it together, but absolute credit to every person that was involved in that.
And
That
a
was one
leap
of the
of
best
faith
things I've
by the
seen.
city in terms of
Yeah,
investment, and it paid back in spades.
yeah. And I think one of the things I felt going to that air show was the palpable excitement right throughout the city. Not just, if you have an event, you'll have the event at a destination and maybe you drive there and you sit there and you watch it. But this
Yeah.
had the whole city, and it had a really good air of
Oh,
excitement and spirit. I
it
really,
was. It
yeah,
was. It was electrifying,
yeah,
and
that's
it's
it.
great. I obviously felt it because that's the world I'm in, but it seemed like everyone was feeling it as
Yeah.
well. It was, yeah, and the weather. God loves the Gold
Oh,
Coast. The weather was spectacular, so I had it all going on.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
no, fabulous event.
So with our, we seem to be really maturing into these major events, and we're not only putting them on, we're doing them extremely well. So that must impact, that must have a really positive impact on the amount of passengers that are coming into the airport and utilising the airport, I guess, either way.
Absolutely. And that's why, as an entity, we're massive supporters and sponsors of all these events, like obviously a massive supporter of the air show, the marathon. And we're supportive of these events sometimes because they bring people into the city just for that event.
Mm-hmm.
Or as an airport, we're also big supporters of arts and culture, for example. So the Bleach Festival, the Swell Festival, Horror, because we also know as an airport to be a sustainable city, there are sort of 5 or 6 things that makes a city a sustainable city is a strong arts and culture scene. So it may be that not be that people will fly in for that particular arts event, but what makes us a better destination to come and live in. So all these things play a role in our maturity as a city, as a destination, not just for people to, as I said, to come and visit, but for those of us who live here, and we saw during COVID, for example, people pouring in to live here from Melbourne and Sydney, and they're used to things like a really strong, strong food scene, strong arts and culture scene. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really important that we invest in that. And actually, the arts and culture, Heart and Placemakers, is also part of Experience Gold Coast now. So
Yeah,
again, that sector will benefit from that new organisation.
absolutely. I'm going to move on to the 2032 Olympics. Now, you've had a lot of experience. You worked with the Sydney airport. You worked at the Sydney airport, I should say, for the Olympics in 2000, but also the Atlanta in 1996. So, how can the Gold Coast take advantage of the 2032 Olympics?
I think there's a number of elements from my experience at Sydney and Atlanta. There's the games period, and obviously there's a lot of, I guess, a lot of the effort and planning goes into that, obviously. But
Mm-hmm.
what tends to happen from what I've seen is after the last Olympics before yours, so for us that would be Los Angeles in 2028.
Yeah.
For that 4-year period leading up to it, there's an enormous amount of focus on the destination. So it's not just obviously a games period, and then obviously there's the legacy afterwards, which is incredibly important as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it swings and roundabouts. I remember at Sydney, and particularly at Sydney Airport, in that 4 years period, anytime we got anything wrong, we any and radio or talk back, it was always, and how are they going to handle the Olympics? So it's
Mm.
things and roundabouts. Don't get me wrong. So you got to is amazing, and you will say as soon as that last games is on, then the focus will be on us. And what a fantastic city to have the focus on. I think we can be really confident going into those games. As we talked about the air show, we can pull these big things off. We obviously, there's a big difference between a Commonwealth Games scale wise and Olympic Games. But that
Mm.
being said, we did an amazing job of the Commonwealth Games and we have all that infrastructure in place. But it's just just ensuring that we use the entire period as we head into the games. I think the games is also a fantastic opportunity to get things done, so it's a great catalyst for that. And particularly, we firmly believe in airport as a tourism city, that they're having the light rail go all the way down to the airport and beyond to Coolangatta is quite critical. It's a very
I was
competitive
going to ask you about
environment,
that.
and people want to be able to walk out of the airport and get where they're going, and it's it can be a lot more seamless. And having a target like having that done by the Olympics and Paralympics, it's a really great aim, a really great goal to have. So there's lots of ways, I think, as a city we can leverage the games.
So you've worked all around the world. Well, you've worked around the world, and you've worked in Australia's southern capitals. You've settled here on the Gold Coast. So what is it that you enjoy most about living on the Gold Coast?
What the Gold Coast to me is the perfect. It's almost like the Goldilocks, just right. It's not too big, not too small. It's just right. So it has everything that you would need from a big city. Like you have like a Pacific Fair and Robina, and from the shopping perspective, it has obviously our climate beaches people talk about, but I'm a massive walker runner, so I love spending time in the hinterland, and obviously that's that ecotourism again is an amazing opportunity for the city. So I think we have everything that you would want in a city of a bigger size, but then when we don't have that size and scale and the clunkiness to do it. And I think one of the main benefits of that is the accessibility of people and power on the Gold Coast. So if you have an idea, or if you want to speak to someone in local government or mayor, or as we form this Experience Gold Coast, that board, everyone's really accessible, and I think you just don't get that in the big cities. So from an education perspective, the really cool schools. And obviously, I have two boys that have gone through those schools, and then amazing universities. Obviously, I sit on council at Bond, extraordinary facility, but we also have Griffith and Southern Cross University, which is on site at Gold Coast. We say we're the only airport with our own university, and they say they're only university with their own airport. But for a while that so we can actually hold on to our kids all the way through university. I hope they go then and explore other places and then come back, bring those learnings back to the Gold Coast. So it's sort of, for me, the Gold Coast is the perfect package. And then with the connections, say we have at Gold Coast Airport, in terms of the number of flights, 16 destinations, every half an hour you can go to Sydney or Melbourne, or, it's really easy. So basically, I think, that the importance of the airport in that is can't be missed. And I think people are seeing now that you can actually live and work anywhere in the world. So people can choose to obviously live on the Gold Coast, but their business can be anywhere. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that. We see a lot of the same cars in the car park, for example, people living here, but going to Sydney for a day or two and then coming back here to live. So that's changed a lot as well. So yeah, it's the Goldilocks city.
I love that. It's been great to speak with you today. Thank you so much.
I've enjoyed it very much too. Thank you for having me.
So impressed, so impressed with how the airport's moving along, and your new international terminal is an absolute. It's a bonus. It's an amazing area. It's just superb.
It's so beautiful. It reflects interior design of the Gold Coast. It's designed to be easy. It's designed that when you arrive from anywhere else in the world, that when you get off that plane, you know exactly where you are. You're on the Gold Coast.
That's right. No, and well done. So great to speak with you, Marion, and all the best. And I'll be catching up with you again in a few months, and we'll revisit where to from here. Okay?
Look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening today. For a complete list of podcast episodes and transcripts, go to rdagoldcoast.org.au/podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter.